Hi, hello, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about the archetype of the wise ones. There's so much about starseeds out there, and I want to talk about a different soul archetype, the one that I resonate with. I personally don't resonate with starseed energy. When I learned about starseeds, of course I did do a little research on them about the different kinds, and to be honest, I saw myself in almost all of them. I think there were like 6 major ones, and I saw myself in 5 of these that I recognized myself in. But the soul archetype I really resonate with are the wise ones, and unfortunately they don't get a lot of recognition. Well, there are not many. That's probably the reason. But this video is a bit more like a vlog talking about the soul archetype of the wise ones. And what are they? Wise ones don't really resonate so much with coming from other dimensions or like planets, other solar systems. They very much are rooted with this earth. And I need to do another video about why starseeds actually not exist. Neither does the wise one. They're just archetypes, because if you learn about manifestation and that there actually time doesn't exist, time is an illusion, something I learned way back, but it took me a while to get that epiphany that if time does not exist, of course past lives don't exist. There's no past lives. There is only different stream of consciousness coming all from the same source that you can connect with, but they are happening right now at the same time. So basically, yes, you are a starseed because you are everything, but it's not like that there's past lives going on. So it's all happening simultaneously. So if you get the glimpse of a past life, what is happening is that you're connecting to that specific stream of consciousness. So some people, I've heard so many people say that they are Marilyn Monroe reincarnated, but if there's no time, Marilyn Monroe still exists. She is still alive because there is no death, and you can connect to that energy, of course, and get visions and stuff, but you cannot have been Marilyn Monroe in a past life because there is no past, there is only presence, ever. So to make it easier, however, we're going to talk about the concept of past lives, because that just makes it easier. Okay, so a starseed basically would see themselves as somebody who is coming from another planet and has had past lives there and is now for the first time or one of the earlier times incarnated on Earth. A wise one would have been incarnated on Earth for very long time. You could say the wise one archetype would be somebody who has been an ascended master already, but then came back to Earth again with a mission to teach, to guide others, because that's what ascended masters do. So a wise one would be connected to this Earth and spiritual leaders. I once saw a vision, a meditation, seeing myself as spiritual leaders all over the world. I saw myself in traditional Siberian shamanic clothing and traditional Native American, like different tribes, even clothing, and like, you know, all of the different tribes, and Celtic shaman clothing and Aborigine clothing, you know, like all over the world. And I've always been connected with the teaching, the spiritual teaching archetype, which is the wise one, because the wise one is the one you go to when you have a problem. And for me in my life, that has always been the case. Even since I was a child, people, even adults, came to me to talk about their problems. That's something, because it's my energy, that I attract people always wanting to get some kind of a guidance, because they recognize that this is part of my archetype, part of who I am. Of course, it's not the only archetype who I am. You know, we can talk about astrology. I am the Gemini rising archetype. I am the Virgo sun archetype. I am the Aqua moon and midheaven archetype. I am the Mars and Scorpio archetype. I am the life path 3 number archetype. I am the Soul Urge 9 number archetype. I am a monadic twin flame, so I am the monadic twin flame archetype. My, how do you call it? Totem is a boa constrictor, a snake, which I did not like in the beginning, since I've always had a phobia, which is very common actually for totems. But so I'm the snake totem archetype. You know, we are a sum of archetypes, and one of mine is the archetype of the wise one, the spiritual leader. And again, if you would want to talk about past lives, then I would say, yeah, I've been a spiritual leader for thousands of years on this earth. And if you don't want to connect to or talk about past lives, then yeah, I connect to spiritual leader for thousands of years. I am connected to that energy. I share that archetype energy. I share those connections with them. You can actually even recognize that archetype in astrology. Again, I don't know too much about what's the name, Starseeds astrology, of course. So I wouldn't know how to recognize starseeds in astrology. However, I would believe, since there's different kind of starseed energies, that there would be different kind of indicators for the different kinds of starseeds. The wise one, however, I do have the south node in the 8th house in Capricorn. And the 8th house is the house of, first of all, what is the south node? The south node is showing what kind of energy you bring into this life. If you want to talk about past lives, again, just to make it clearer, because that concept is a bit easier to grasp, it would show what you have done in past lives and you brought into this life. So, and also it would show you a lot about your early childhood, because what you have not completed in a past life or healed, for example, if you have been violated in a past life, then you would most likely be born into a violent family, and you would experience that kind of violence again in early childhood in order to reprogram that energy in order to be able to heal it and transcend it, of course. So the 8th house is the house, and the houses are more important when we talk about south nodes than signs, but you have to combine them. Why? Because a sign, the south node, or the nodes are in one sign for about 1.5 years, meaning everybody within 1.5 years approximately have the same north and south nodes. So of course that cannot show you too much about your individual path. The houses, however, I mean, since the sun goes around, well, technically it doesn't go around the earth once, we turn once. Each house, I mean, the nodes are in each house for about 2 hours every day. And so the houses are more important when you want to get your individual stuff, but you have to connect houses and signs to really get more about your soul archetype. And the 8th house, it's the Scorpio house, it's the house of the mystics, it's the house of darkness, it's the house of death, literally, and of course also metaphorically. It's like Phoenix being reborn all of the time, going through major cycles, ascension. It is also connected to what's not as important right now, like wealth when it comes to from other people, but more important, it's connected to, my cat is really trying to annoy me. He's consciously do that because he's doing things he's not allowed, and he's licking plastic bags. I'm sorry, it's very irritating. I hate that noise. And he's literally, sometimes the time is approaching feeding time, so he's doing that if he doesn't get his will. And I know he's doing it consciously because we are roommates for like 2006, so 17 years. No, wait. Okay, never mind. Cats. I love them, but sometimes they're annoying. So anyway, so the eighth house, it's the occult, it's the mystic, it's the hidden stuff, it's research, it's psychology, it's understanding things, it's facing the dark. And the Capricorn is basically connected to authority, so king energy or king or queen energy, you could say. And since it's connected to leadership and authority, the eighth house and Capricorn would be a spiritual leader, because again, it's leadership and it's spiritual leadership. And the way it's since this video is about how does it play out for me, ever since I was a child, I did feel spirits, of course. Especially, and it's not surprising to see people. I did not see them, I felt them, I felt their presence. It's not surprising because the eighth house is also connected to death. So people with the eighth house in South Node in the eighth house may have psychic abilities, especially when it comes to connecting to spirits on the other side. And so I always felt them. And when I was a child, the library has been one of my most favorite places always, and I liked reading those horror stories. So I taught myself to read even before I went to school, because I just loved books. And I liked to go to the library and borrow the books about ghosts, the ghost stories, but not Casper like the kids' ghost stories, more like the dark ones, the haunted stories, the creepy stories. And I still like horror stories today. Not splatter, I don't like splatter, but the mystic, supernatural horror stories, I still love them. And so that was for me a way to connect to the other realm through those stories, because I felt that, you know, ghosts and all of that stuff is real. It's always been a part of my life. Then when I was about 11, I liked reading about fairies and Wicca stuff and natural spirits. And yeah, the wise ones, you could basically say, when we want to hold on to the concept of past lives, they have always done the research. They were the shaman leaders always, for everybody all over the world. And they were the astrologers, they were the mystics, they were the magicians, all of that. And the wise ones were the leader of kings, for example. Not the king, but the leader of the king. And again, the shaman, all of that. And when they're reborn, they want to go to where they left off. They learned about astrology and they naturally feel drawn to that stuff. And from very early childhood, they feel drawn to do their research on that and to learn. And it's also often very much connected to scholar wisdom, wanting to learn it from every different angle. And I think it's no surprise I do study literature, and during my master's my main focus was on, or is on, medieval literature when it comes to books about magic and astrology. And so ever since I was a child, I felt connected to learning about this. And I also always had these psychic abilities, and I always have been the go-to person. And when I was like 14, I started learning about astrology. Then when I was 19, I started learning tarot cards, basically not because I believed in them, because they were like woo-woo stuff for me. They were not science. Like astrology for me was science. I never doubted that they were spirits because I felt them ever since I was a kid. But you know, like cards, divination, I didn't believe in that. It just happened. You know, it's all divinely guided. I had a friend back then whose mom was a bit into it, not professionally, but she knew about tarot, and my friend as well, and she read the cards for me just for fun basically, and I forgot all of it. But then half a year later, I remembered what she said, and everything had come true in the meantime. So I bought my first deck of tarot because I wanted to prove myself that it's not true, that there's nothing to it. I wanted to do research basically, but then everything I read come true. So I didn't understand it. It drove me crazy that I didn't understand, because I wanted to understand how it worked. Now I know about manifestation, and I know about picking up energies, of course, reading connected to the matrix. And so of course it would work. Back then I didn't understand, but I bought my first cards to do research, and I have done reading cards since I was like 19. Started doing it professionally when I was like 23. I started meditating when I was about 21, also to understand more. I didn't believe in angels. I believed in other spirits, but not angels, because to me they were connected to Christianity, and I didn't believe in that back then. And so one day, just for curiosity, I was talking to an angel medium, and everything she told me was true. So I was like, okay, so maybe angels are a thing. That's why I started meditating, so I could connect to angels and other spirits, of course. So for me, again, it started very early on, because, yeah, South Node in the 8th house. It's not surprising. You feel very drawn to that from early on. And if you connect that to what I was saying about wise ones, they come to earth to teach. They come to earth to do more research about spiritual stuff. It connects very well to the South Node in the 8th house, and then actually being a teacher, being a leader, a spiritual leader, connects to the 8th house Capricorn energy, of course. So when I learned about wise souls, when I first heard about them, I immediately felt very much connected to that term. It did something to me, and I deeply resonate with that, especially since I also work with ascended masters. Basically, one is my main ascended master that actually started working with me ever since my first meditation, basically, and that is Zajama, who's also known as a Merlin. And Merlin, by the way, is not a name. It's a title, like a pope. Merlin was the chief of the Druids, and when one died, another one was elected. But Zajama was known to be connected to Merlin energy, but also to Plato. And I've always felt very drawn to Greek mythology. I actually studied philosophy. So Plato is, of course, an ancient Greek philosopher. He is the one who was writing about twin flames, by the way. So you can Google Plato and twin flames. So of course I've felt very much connected to that. I only knew that recently, basically. I have been working with Zajama or Merlin since I was like 21, and that connection to Plato and Merlin I found out a couple of years ago. But it all connects. I always felt very drawn to Celtic mythology as well. So those were the energies like the Celtic and the Greek that I felt very drawn to. Always. So that is of course no surprise. Always thought I did have my soul origin there in that area, basically the Celtic area. And also when I go to Ireland or London, England, it always feels like going home to me. So yeah, that is about the wise soul. What are wise souls again? Those are archetypes. It's a soul archetype that connects not to other star system, but very much to shamans, traditions, spiritual traditions that have to do with this earth, like native traditions, native cultures. And in my case, again, like all over the continents, I saw images of myself being a shaman all over the continents. Sometimes they can be interested in astrology from very early on. They do research in the spiritual field from very early on. They are teachers from very early on, and because again that's what they are connected to. Many people say wise ones do look older than they are, but once I have read that they do look younger, may look younger, I obviously, at least that's what I get told all the time, look younger than I am. That's probably because the Gemini rising aspect, Gemini rising people are known to have Peter Pan syndrome. They just don't age normally. I mean, usually people think I am in my 20s, but actually by the time you watch this video, it will be 2022, and I will turn 40 in 2022. So 40, so like this, or I don't know. What else is there to say about wise ones? Often they are described as being serious, kind of. There we go again to the Capricorn archetype, because if you want to hold on to the belief of past lives, they have seen the wars, they have seen everything. Even if that didn't happen, then they usually had very serious childhoods, like not very happy childhoods. So they do have some kind of serious energy that I do have, yes. But again, I'm a Gemini rising, so I do have that side as well, the fun, forever youthful energy. But they can be a bit melancholic, and that has been a major energy in my life, basically, like dealing with depression and all of that till into my 30s. But Ascension helps you to get past that, so that is no longer part of my life. That deep melancholy that I used to think will ever be a part of me, will forever be a part of me, but I don't really tap into that energy anymore. But that would also connect to the Wise One energy, that heavy, dense energy of having seen all of the problems and wars in the world. Basically, that could be another thing. But of course, everybody still is somewhat individual. But you would recognize a Wise One if they feel very drawn to any kind of like shamanism, traditional ways when it comes to learning, wanting to learn more, understand more astrology, and they have always been very, very connected to these kind of things. I mean, Starseeds probably as well, but in a different way. They would be more connected to, I don't know, whatever Starseeds are connected to, but not so much in the traditions of this earth. And that's what Wise Ones would connect to. As I said, for me, it has most likely a lot to do with the Celtic and also the Greek, but others might be more connected to the Egyptians. I also feel connected to Native American heritage, even though I don't have that in my blood as far as I know. I do have it in my family though. My cousin has that on his father's side, but I'm not related to his father. His mother is my aunt. But there is this connection to Native. My cousin is part, well, he's Hispanic, he's from Venezuela, and he has parts, I think his great-grandfather was a chief even of a Native American tribe. So it is in the family, even if it's not exactly my blood. But I've always felt connected to Native American mythology. Not so much mythology, I don't know a lot about it, but that energy, I want to say. So yeah, that is what it kind of can feel like to be a wise soul archetype. If that resonated with you, leave a comment below. And also please check out my other stuff. If you want to get coaching from a wise one, then you're welcome to contact me. And yeah, I wish you all the best. Now, bye-bye.